We are the hub for news, results, and CEO interviews focusing the junior commodities sector. We provide market analysis and perspective that will help position you for solid returns.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Stock Talk. We're joined by Champion Electric Metals. Fantastic story. We're speaking with Jonathan Buick, who is the president and CEO over at this company. Of course, expanding and looking for lithium in North America, really featuring on this supply chain issue. It's an issue because there's so much growth happening in not only the battery space, but in mining in general, that we need to meet this demand that's happening to make this cleaner, greener future. So it's a real pleasure to be speaking with you. How are you doing today? And tell me a little bit about Champion.
First, Andrew, thank you for the opportunity to come on and speak to your audience and to you. These are exciting days for us. We've had a busy last 12 months. It was about a year ago this time that we announced our first acquisition in Quebec. We've done 9 since. We now control 530 square kilometers right along the Trans-Tega Road up in James Bay, with 2 notable neighbors being Winsome Resources on our western flank and Patriot Battery Metals and their Corvette discovery sitting directly south of us on the southern flank. And they've just spent a bunch of millions of dollars putting a road through our property down to the Corvette discovery, which we think is a world-class discovery that will lead to a mining decision. Same geologic opportunity for us. They've had a head start in terms of the clock, but we do believe we can deliver the same type of success and results for our shareholders as they've done for theirs.
That's great, because that gives right off the bat a quick gist of what we're talking about. A lot of people who follow me and subscribe, they understand how forward-thinking, especially Quebec is in regards to any battery energy metal. They're really on top of things. They understand the Patriot Battery story because that has exploded and done very well. So that kind of ties in. Okay, you're definitely the right jurisdiction and the right province who gets it. And there's infrastructure being built up in that area. Now, one of the things is, before we jump into your team, which also is a huge highlight, is that whole James Bay. I mean, there's a lot happening in that region besides Patriot Battery Metals. Like, you've got very high expectations, say, by 2030 of what could be happening up there.
We see the James Bay being a major leading jurisdiction within Quebec, but also globally in terms of supplying a lot of those critical metals. I think there's an opportunity here that's a 100-year opportunity. We are in the early innings of the race. It is going to be a life-changing opportunity for people in the communities, in the industry, and in the province. This is a real push. First time in 30 years in this business where I've seen every level of government in so many different jurisdictions singing from the same song sheet. And that has a direct impact and opportunity for a junior upstart like ours to be speaking to meaningful global players. We are in constant, regular conversations with big mining companies, big chemical companies, because there is a fear of missing out. And with the Inflation Reduction Act of Biden's, after 2024, if you don't have a free trade agreement with America, those metals can't come in without penalty. It also means that you lose the tax advantage and discount on those electric vehicles. So to be in a featured jurisdiction like Quebec moves us to the front of that queue. Now, we have a lot of geologic work to do and a lot of things to allow us to be a real meaningful participant, but we position the company for active role in this electrification of the world.
I think it's so vital to really hone in on that, not only the Inflation Reduction Act, but the extreme, say, interest, even like the Department of Defense, different departments of energy in the US as well. They're looking to Canada saying, listen, we know you're a resource country. How can we get involved? Or I know that there's, to some, they're offering grants up to like 60 different projects that they're kind of looking at. They're very interested in trying to initiate and get us doing what we should be doing. We're a resource-based country, so let's get the country behind this idea. Like, if we're really pushing for this green agenda, Canada sitting in a driver's seat where they could be literally a global leader in providing, in a safe, prudent, efficient way, all the materials that's required to make a lot of these changes.
And we've seen that firsthand. We also have 4 cobalt properties in Idaho, and Idaho is a great jurisdiction. And every year the Fraser Institute ranks globally the mining jurisdictions of the world. Quebec's ranked number 4, Idaho's ranked number 9. So 2 top-tier jurisdictions. As an investor, and you as an investor, you've invested in a lot of interesting projects in challenging jurisdictions where you're worried about the local strongman or the corrupt politician who's going to come in and seize that asset. We don't have to worry about that in Idaho or Quebec. And we've been in and met with the governor's office in Idaho. I've been into DC and met with lobbyists, senators, and congressmen. There is a real it's unbelievable the push coming from so many different levels of government to see how they can get self-sufficient or rely on their allies. China's no longer welcome in America. Indonesian nickel, their cobalt, Russian nickel and cobalt, Filipino nickel, like that. None of them have free trade agreements. Where are they going to get their metal supply from? You look at the 7 battery manufacturers in Korea plus Panasonic. They've committed $54 billion to North America in the next 10 years. And that's without having metal supply. That's just building out the plants and the factories, including Ford announcing with SK and EcoPro 2 weeks ago, a $1.2 billion battery plant right along the St. Lawrence. The governor in Idaho is pro-mining. He's pro-industry. He wants to see jobs created, as is Quebec. The premier has said they want to have an electric corridor along the St. Lawrence and be sending all that. They're mentally endowed. Let's make discoveries. Let's move them through to mining decisions, and let's be a part of the solution. And I think it's a real opportunity that's first I've seen ever.
That's what's so exciting is that, I mean, maybe there's a disconnect still because it is a tougher market, but with like retail investors, the average Canadian, they're starting to understand, oh, we need this stuff. And they obviously know like Tesla and that side of the story, but it's slowly coming around that they're starting to realize, wait a second, this demand for the materials is real. And once again, it really matters where that comes from. And you touched on like the big players and the tensions, politically. But even if you look at like South America, where like say a place like Bolivia, which might have, millions of pounds of lithium on reserve, technically, it's unlikely anyone's going to get that at not only cost, but political issues. And we've seen even kind of either nationalizing some mines, but even talk. And that right away scares markets, scares companies. That, wait a second, we can't go into these types of jurisdictions where if we can't count on our deal actually coming to fruition when we need the supply, it's not going to work.
Yeah, and you hear little grumblings or rumors of there being a OPEC type of formation with the lithium groups in Chile, Argentina, Bolivia. What does that mean for the global situation? I also think there's going to be a differentiator between the salars and the clays and the hard rock.
Yes.
Like the battery companies, like the chemical companies, they're chemists. They want to be the ones in the white lab coats. They don't like seeing mining companies being the one in the white lab coats. Pegmatites is a known mining process. It's hard rock mining. It's a known and proven technology around that. It's not the science. The science they want to have happen at the battery, not at the mine. And so there is still an advantage on the pegmatites. I think where there's a bit of a disconnect in the North American market versus, say, the Australian market is the Canadian retail investor has been burned a couple of times in Quebec, right? They've got burned by Nemaska. They got burned by North American lithium. They're a little bit gun shy. The Australians are much more willing to come in and take a punt on a situation. And they've all made money on Patriot and Winsome because they're both listed in Australia. So part of our corporate objective this year is actually get that ASX listing. We want to trade on the same market as them. In fact, since May 1st, we've seen 27 million shares get bought out of Australia. So we now have a large Australian shareholder base. They know that they've made money on Patriot, or maybe they missed Patriot. Now they're looking for what's the next one. And they're looking at the map and they're like, how did this company get this land package? That's after 5 o'clock at night, my phone lights up. It's +61 area code. It's all Australians. First, it was corporates trying to raid us. Now it's investors trying to own us. And they look, and one thing that I think it's missed because we talk so much about Patriot and Winsome, and I can talk lots about them and how we want to emulate them, but is the infrastructure around our project. We're in the middle of nowhere in James Bay. Yeah, we've got a road that goes right through our property. We've got the LG4 airport that sits on the northeast part of our property. Right beside that is Mirage Base Camp, where we have a 20-person camp on that property. Through that Trans-Taga Road is probably one of the best kept roads in rural Quebec because of the importance of that road. LG4 airport services Hydro-Quebec's largest power dam, which sits about 35 kilometers west of our property. We have 2 power lines that come back through our property before they head south into the grid. That's hydro power, 3.6 cents a kilowatt Canadian an hour. Cheapest power in the world, and it's ESG compliant. So you want to check that box, it checks that box too. So that if that infrastructure wasn't there, I don't know that we would have come in and made these acquisitions. It wasn't just Patriot and Corvette or Winsome and Canset. It was everything that goes with that. We've been in places where the cost to go out and do remote exploration is profound. We want to reduce that risk. Our job is to reduce and manage the risk for the investors. And we are investors. As a team, we own roughly 30% of the company. We're the 3 largest shareholders sit on my board. Myself and Gabrielle Pindar and Paul Fornazari, we all have written significant checks to be here. And we respect the capital of our partners. Our partners are our shareholders. Our partners aren't going to be a big mining company. They're going to be our creditor. My partner's my shareholder. It's about respecting the capital.
I'm glad you brought that up too, because that's impressive to have that kind of ownership. It speaks volumes to what you believe in the projects, but also you touched on something that I think it needs to be said too. I believe, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that your team, so your board altogether, has done about $6 billion in other projects of lithium deals.
Correct. Yeah. And so as we were putting together our strategy and building the team, we looked at our experience and where we could bring value. And I think first is the alignment with the shareholder, because we're shareholders, but also the pedigree of the team. Like, my board is a big company board. You know, we currently have about a $35 million market cap. That's not where we're going to be in 12 months. And I've been able to get people who have been successful in this industry. Paul Fornazzari is actually a founding shareholder and director for the company. He's a securities lawyer in Toronto, but he was a founder and director for Lithium Americas. He then left that board and became a founder and director for Neo Lithium. Two big wins for the shareholder. Patrick Highsmith, who's a technical director, he's American. I first met Patrick in the late 2000s. He was CEO and director for Lithium One, the original Lithium One, not the new one that's around today. He hired my firm. I have an advisory firm, former broker dealer called Harp Capital, and we work with junior companies to secure capital out of Korea and Japan. And that's part of my pedigree and background is success with the battery groups in Korea and Japan. He hired our firm. We brought him a joint venture into the Sal de Vida project in Argentina of LG, GS Caltex, and Crest. And about 15 months later, Galaxy Minerals, now Allchem, took that over for a big win for the shareholders. But in that process, all of the projects at Lithium Americas, at Neo Lithium, and at Lithium One led to mining decisions, and are now in that process. And that's our goal, is to lead this to a mining decision. Gabriel Pindar is our most recent director. He joined the board first quarter after we had shown. He gave me a to-do list. As I went through the to-do list and was able to accomplish enough, he put his hand up and said, yes, I'll join the board. Not only did he join the board, he wrote $1 million check day one. He then did a private placement at a 30% premium to the stock. A couple months later, just let the market know we thought the stock was cheap. He's an engineer by training. He's built 11 mines around the world, including one in Quebec when he was with ArcelorMittal. So he understands the jurisdiction. But at Neo Lithium, when they were taken out last year for $940 million by the Chinese, he was just down in Argentina, and he sent us a bunch of videos and pictures. They're literally about to turn on the production there. They've not changed one sentence from the feasibility study. So that just shows the quality of the work. So mining decisions is the goal here. And if we do it right, we'll end up I'll either get replaced by the engineer that's going to build this, or I'll be a shareholder in a bigger company. You know, we don't have egos either. This is about doing right and doing it for the shareholder, but also in the community. We try to be actively involved in the community, and I can speak to that a little bit if you'd like.
Yeah, actually speak to it, because that is part of this. I mean, we kind of touched on the ESG factor, and with the hydro, that's a huge plus, because all of these factors, they have to come into play. Everything has to kind of coalesce. You can't be missing parts of it. And it really seems like you've, from the macro right down to the minor decisions, have lined up everything, that it is really a matter of the targets, the drilling, and not that that's an easy task, but certainly you've gotten rid of a lot of the risk that one can.
Well, this is a high risk business.
Yeah.
And so our job and first responsibility to the investor is to try to manage the risk and alleviate as much of it as possible. With where we are in the James Bay, it's been ravaged by the fires. Like we were evacuated for 7 weeks, but it's no longer a topic in the news. Typical forest fire season in Quebec sees about 15,000 hectares of fire. This year, just in the James Bay, 3.6 million hectares were burned. That's impacted not just the Cree First Nation who lives off the land, it's impacted the wildlife. The moose and caribou aren't coming back because there's nowhere to eat. The birds that they hunt there's nowhere. The fish have been impacted in the water by the ash and soot that's fallen in the lakes. Like it's been a war zone, and nobody's talking about it. So we've actually been in regular dialogue with the chief and the deputy chief. How can we help that community? You know, we're actually about to have a GoFundMe page go live. We're going to see if we can raise some funds. 60% of that community is under the age of 30. And so we're going to see if we can do something for the youth. We're going to try to see if we can build a playground, get some hockey equipment, get some sports facilities, because winter is harsh and long up there. We're seeing if we can do something to make a difference there. And I think there's not enough of that being done, and there's not enough being spoken about. And us as a group that's active in that community, we need to show them that we care, and that's what we're doing as well. And those are things that people don't think about or don't pay attention to. That those are who first engagement needs to be with. because
Yes.
it's their traditional lands. Just like we did in Idaho. Like in Idaho, what we've done is wherever we work in Idaho, wherever we can, we hire local heavy equipment operators, the drill contractors. All our geos in Idaho are university grads from Idaho. We want to have the community know that we're there long term. We're not just there for a trade. And we're trying to do that and establish the same thing in the James Bay. Now, these are early days. We've literally been there a year today. That we've made our first announcement September 14th of last year with our acquisition. And we've now done a bunch, and we've got early days in the field, but also early days in the community engagement. ESG starts with the dialogue we're having with that chief. It's not what you see on the news or in the fund. ESG is really being involved in that community, and how can you come in and make a difference? And that's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, that type of stewardship where you are authentic, and obviously all parties know that you are. It's not, hey, I'm coming in business, I'm going to tell you what to do, I'm going to bully you to do this, that. That's like an old model that you see in movies, is when people come in and they genuinely want that community to heal, to get better. And in this case, especially with the devastation, that goes a long way, because it really does align everyone together, that we are working on this together. There's a bigger goal here. And that comes across. It comes across whenever you have those first conversations and as you build the relationships moving forward.
Well, how many broken promises have already happened in history, right? So we're just one small little company, but let's do something and actually stand by our word. Let's show them that we care.
Yes.
Let's show them that we want to make a difference economically for them as well. Like, we're trying to see how we can engage and hire within the First Nations community. There's opportunities here for everybody. We can all benefit from the electrification of the world. And it starts by being able to walk down the street and knock on the door and have a warm and friendly conversation. We may not always agree, but you have to have the conversation.
Yes. And I think when people feel heard, especially if they feel like they don't have a voice, that once again goes a long way. Like, someone's listening to me and someone cares. So it's great to hear corporate decisions being made at that level and with that type of sensitivity towards people. Also, you back in, I think, May, you raised $4 million as well.
Correct.
Yeah. So cash in the bank. You've done a lot of work up until there. How close are you to actually hitting, like, finding targets? Are you getting kind of close? Yeah. Good. Okay.
I'll talk to the money, but also how we're spending it. Because I think the latter is more important than how much we have. Is how much do we have and how quick is it going to go?
Yes.
So we have our team in the field in Quebec. And I don't want to dismiss our Idaho assets, because they are important. Now, anybody who's come into the story or been introduced to the story in the last year, it's only about Quebec and the lithium. There is a meaningful opportunity for us and our shareholders in Idaho. We are spending a little bit of money in Idaho. We have a past producing mine called the Twin Peaks. We've got a couple of field seasons that have been completed. We've just flown a drone survey. We've just done some sampling. We have drill targets there as well. We think we can make a meaningful discovery there. But I'll speak to Quebec and where we are, because that was a flow-through financing that was done. So we raised $4.3 million at 20 cents when the stock was 10. The back end buyer, so it was a super flow-through. So there was a front end and a back end. The back end buyer was 11 lithium executives, industry people that bought that, and they continue to buy the stock in the open market. They're big believers in what we have and the team involved. And a lot of them have made money with us in previous iterations of our experience. We have currently about $5.4 million in the bank. We have enough to fund the drill program. So boots on the ground right now. We have typical change of season about middle of October. You'll start to see you need to take a bit of a pause. There's also a pause due to a hunt. I don't know how that's going to be impacted, obviously, from the forest fires. It's usually a 2-week break, but we expect snow to get in the way about October 15th to October 30th. So we have our full team in place until then. We have a crew that's has offered to stay until we have to get them out with the weather. We can work 12 months a year, but we'll do a transitionary changeover where we'll go from the sampling and mapping into a drill program. So we're going to have our maiden, I'll call it our discovery drill program, because that's our full expectation is a discovery, and we expect to be a discovery of magnitude. So right now we have over 200 exposed pegmatites at surface. Now, bear in mind, 530 square kilometers, I don't think people can appreciate how large a land package we have. It is a massive land package. It's bigger than both Winsome and Patriot combined. And so we've got a lot of work in front of us. And this is our first field season. So we've been sampling and mapping. Our goal of this program is to have boots on every pegmatite. Sample, map it, From the desktop study we did in the winter, we did an airborne program last fall. We did a desktop study in the winter. We did another airborne program in the spring. And then we had the 7-week pause with the evacuation. We've had way more desktop study than we expected at this point because of the delays with the fires, but it's also allowed us, we've now got 17 high priority targets. Within that, the sampling and mapping is to confirm those as targets. So our goal this winter is to come in and drill and make discovery. We're prioritizing the targets based on the results from the labs that are still to come. We're still waiting for those. We expect to have those in the next 2 weeks, the first batch anyway. So there is regular and meaningful news flow to come, probably on a weekly basis going forward, as we have samples are being sent weekly. So we expect the results to come back weekly as well. So that it's going to be a pretty robust news season coming up. We have the funds in place to deliver that discovery. Typical drill costs in Quebec in the James Bay in winter is about $325 a meter, all in, including assays. We're expecting that discovery program to be we have a 1-rig drill program. The drill rig is engaged and ready. It'll be a 3,000 to 5,000 meter program. So if we run $325 a meter at 5,000 meters, $1.8 million. Let's round it up to $2 million to be conservative. Cash is already in the bank. We're not out cap in hand. We're not looking to raise money. In fact, in April, we had a number of corporate conversations happening, and you saw a couple of other people in the community or in the neighborhood that did deals with a major. Those deals didn't make sense to us. We're not a project generator. We want to manage the project. A major can't offer anything to the table that we don't do and have in-house already. But what they offer is they're either an employer or a taxpayer in the province or the state. That's what they bring at this stage. They don't bring the expertise to deliver the discovery. We do. So that we paused all those conversations, and we actually as a board determined that we would fund the next 10 million ourselves if we don't like terms of finance. That's how much we believe the opportunity is in front of us. We're also fortunate enough that we're in a position that we can do that. A lot of guys can't do that, but we're the risk reward to us is we're prepared to take that risk. Having said that, if we get financing on the right terms, we'll just write checks alongside new capital. We know the business eats money. This is a capital intensive business. So we by putting our own money in, it's again telling the shareholder we're respecting the capital. We're not out wasting. We're not sitting in a steakhouse drinking Barolos, eating porterhouses. That's not where the money goes. This is in the ground or in acquisition. The average cost in the last 2 years in the James Bay, we run a spreadsheet model, works out to about $12,500 a claim. Our average acquisition costs are $2,400. So we think we did it on good value. Now, bear in mind, when we started our conversations in late 2021 on acquisitions, Patriot had a 20 million market cap. As we went through and negotiated all these, Patriot went from a 20 million market cap to over $2 billion, now back to about 1.4 billion. The ask from the prospector went with the price of Patriot stock. All of a sudden, they thought they were selling us Park Avenue, New York.
Yeah.
Right. So it was managing expectations. But also, I think once they saw enough transactional success and saw the team that we had put together, there was now people knocking on our door saying, look, we would like to do business with you. We were actually going to have a field program. We weren't looking to promote a land package. We were looking to go in and develop a land package. There's a lot of guys who've come in and picked up, they got a Dino West, they got Corvette South, they got Corvette North. They have no intention of actually putting boots in the ground.
Yeah.
We're not going to just put boots in the ground. We've already got boots in the ground. We're looking to put a drill in the ground. We're looking to make a discovery. We believe the window for wealth is right in front of us. And we're not afraid of that. We're pursuing that.
Well, that's the type of story that I certainly like to hear, and our subscribers certainly like to hear, as well as, and thank you for touching on, like the sense of urgency. You're going to have news flow every week. You're going to have a lot of news to be said. And I think in these challenging markets, people need to know that some are kind of wait and see stories, and others are, no, we're working right now. We're going to have news. So there's, you can either be early in this long-term play that I think people are starting to understand the enormity of it. And that's what makes it attractive, is that, you can pick up your stock for, a very nice price, with the potential being, quite high as you take the whole kind of market into account. And that's what really, I think, draws people in. And we kind of highlight to people that if you want to be a part of this kind of movement, this green movement, sure, you could go march in the streets and you can do all that, but it's almost more effective if you said, we can fund a lot of these projects in safe jurisdictions, in countries where they're doing it well, they're doing ESG, that are working as partners with people, and fund these R&D projects to move that bar ahead so that we can, as a whole country, be a real player in this space.
So when I meet with an investor, and I've been doing a fair amount of marketing, as I'm sure you can appreciate, my goal out of any meeting is not to have them become a shareholder. My goal is to get on their watch list. Are we doing what we said we're going to do? Are we checking the boxes? Here's our, if you look at our presentation on our website, which is updated on with each press release, new information that presentation gets updated. Here's our what's to come. Are we doing what we said we are? My job is to explain the news, good, bad, or indifferent. What does this mean for you as an investor? How is this good information, even though the stock may have responded poorly? Is this helping us understand what the geological opportunity? I see a huge disconnect with a lot of companies in their news flow and their ability to explain the news flow. And so when I talk to an investor, it's like, my goal is not for you to become a shareholder today, it's for you to watch and see. And hopefully by the time we meet again, I'm welcoming you as a shareholder partner, because we've done what we said we're going to do. I can control the sine curve of the metals. I can't say when, copper is going to be in favor or lithium's out of favor. That's beyond my capability. What I can tell you is we're going to run a sound program on good budgets with good budget controls. And we believe that we can move the needle for the company. We've got a huge objective corporately. We've got a huge project within the company. Part of the corporate goals this year is not only to continue to expand our shareholder base in North America, but we've seen a lot of investors come out of, as I said, out of Australia, but also out of Europe. We are also going to seek an additional listing. We want to be on the ASX. We think it's important for our investors to have the opportunity to own the shares, and not everybody can buy in Canada from overseas. So how can we open up that window of opportunity to other new investors? That's part of our responsibility as well. We believe this is a 24-hour world we work in. There's no downtime. Same with the markets, but same with the geologic opportunity and the reward of that. So we want to always be available to new investors. And if we get an overseas listing, then we would effectively be trading 24 hours a day, just like Patriot is. They trade 24 hours a day now with their various listings. We want to offer that same opportunity to other investors.
It's quite a story. I mean, I like to paint things to our subscribers so they can kind of see an end use, because a lot of people are kind of new to the mining space. They're understanding how critical it is. But to see, say, people have heard about Volkswagen building a plant. They hear about Ford and with their with CATL, with their lithium phosphate plant being built in Michigan, with I think another 5 other battery projects have been announced in Michigan alone. Stellantis in Ontario as well. And then, of course, you mentioned the Ford one in Quebec. I mean, there's so many battery plants that one can just look on a map and go, well, where are you getting your lithium from? So finding, a discovery and having it that you could see it flow down to a user, it really paints a picture in someone's mind going, oh, I see. We don't have to ship it up from, Peru. We don't have to ship it from somewhere, or the cost of getting it from somewhere else could be, exorbitant. This could literally just be a very, very short transportation window to a direct end user.
Even on the battery manufacturing side, there is such a committed capital to it. And they're now, OEMs are now investing into mining projects. That's the first time ever. What would Chrysler or Ford have known about a nickel mine or a lithium mine 5 years ago? Nothing.
Yes.
They're now having to educate themselves. They're going to make some bad decisions. There's going to be a couple of trips and falls, because they're going to learn on the fly. But I think the advantage for us is we have a pedigree of success as a board that would allow that comfort to happen earlier and quicker, because we've got a track record. There's a lot of companies that have a decent project, but they don't necessarily have the track record, and they may not be able to access that capital. The strength of my board is we have the ability to we've done successful transactions with industry players. We understand the institutional investor audience, but we also know and respect the retail investor. There's many rungs on the ladder. You need to be able to service all of them, right? You don't want to go parabolic. You want to grow and be incremental. There's going to be, gap ups, and it'll trade back down, gaps up, but it's about managing expectation. That's part of my responsibility, is to manage the expectation. And that's why I continue to say, look, we got a big land package. We got a lot of work in front of us, and we're up to the task. We've rolled up our sleeves. We are, as I said to you before we came online, we're in the mud every day. We are so excited about where we are. And this is really pioneering. We are pioneering right now, and it's awesome.
And it's amazing to have that kind of distinction too, of you're literally in the mud on site doing the process of mining from each step. But also you have firsthand experience with dealing with some of these companies that literally were involved in the Ford deal. You yourself know, and your board. So you understand that conversation to not just be, say, for myself saying, oh, wow, yeah, like Ford has gone into this mine, or Tesla has invested in this nickel mine. People are seeing these direct kind of plays by end users. You've actually had those conversations. You're talking to these people. You're getting to see really where this is going from their point of view too.
So I've spent the last 22 years working in Korea and Japan with my advisory firm, which I've handed off to my partner. I'm 100% focused on Champion, but my business partner is now running that, but I'm still involved in various levels of conversation, as you can probably appreciate. So we've done 4 battery metals transactions where we were the advisor with the issuer into Korea, including with LGES, POSCO, EcoPro. So EcoPro is one of the groups that just announced with Ford and SK that big $1.2 billion plant. Well, EcoPro, we were the advisor for them investing in a nickel project in Vietnam. EcoPro, every time they come through Canada, we meet either on their way in or out of Toronto into Montreal for meetings. We break bread, and we've gotten to know each other. So when they were leaving after the Ford ceremony, I went and broke bread with them on the Saturday on their way back to Seoul. They have now got a direct commitment to the province and to the nation. Previously, they were trying to figure out who is who. How do they come in and play? Well, now they're in. How are they going to find it? Well, we're a familiar face. So those are conversations that can happen quickly and easily, right? They know who we are. We've got a track record of success, a track record of understanding. It's tough enough to do business with your next door neighbor, let alone somebody who's 14 hours time zone away, who has a different obligation or need out of that mine.
Mm-hmm.
We understand what those challenges are on both sides. So I think it allows us to navigate that conversation and allow for success. You need a win-win, right? The benefit of Korea and Japan over some of the other nations is they've done business with the West for 60 years. They understand what it's like and the challenges of trying to do business internationally, and that there needs to be a win on both sides. It can't just be come in and grab. There has to be sacrifices. And I've seen it in the deals that we've been involved in as advisor, but also as an investor. And I think that there's a real window here that may be, again, ebb and flow within the next 5 to 7 years, but there is a real, we're seeing the needle move pretty quick, and it's going to only get better.
No, it's amazing seeing this momentum. And as someone who's been watching for years, seeing it start to happen, wondering when it was going to happen, but we can certainly see, especially when the government starts kind of promoting the idea and saying, listen, we got to get on board this. And then even if someone's not watching the markets, they start seeing in the news these bigger companies coming in. It's eventually going to kind of seep down to a retail level and go, wow, I need to get involved in this. And it's great to spend the time with you where we get a bit of an education about the whole market in general as well, like each step of the way of the process. So someone goes, oh, okay, I understand why we need to have a mine here that could get to, end user here. And this is certainly, like I said, amazing jurisdiction, right? Postal code, that whole area, it looks more than promising. We've got a lot of the synergies flowing all together, from government to institutions to big business. And I guess at this point, we're just looking to see how those targets you found and what the drills bring.
It's the ultimate truth serum. Our responsibility to the shareholder and to the community is to do it in a proper manner in terms of the approach and managing and respecting the environment, but also our community that we're working in, but to come in and make that meaningful discovery. There's a lot of hay when you're looking in the haystack to find the needle. And right now we're working through the haystack, and we think we've got some really nice, meaningful targets that will come. And we've got the money in the bank to go and drill those and bring that deliver that discovery of magnitude to our shareholder. No, it's been a wonderful opportunity to come in and have a chance to speak to you and your subscriber base. I do think that there is a wealth creating event in the James Bay. I think over the next 100 years, you're going to probably see 4 or 5 mines built in the James Bay. I do believe that the James Bay is going to be a critical supplier into the industry. And I think that we have a chance to play a part of that. And it's exciting early days. There is risk, but we think the reward is vast.
Well, thank you, Mr. Buick. It's been a real pleasure. Looking forward to seeing the news that comes out. And we wish you all the best, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Looking forward to our update when we're having a chance to talk about some really exciting news that's on the come.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Appreciate it.